Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all persuasions. I'm alone in Finland, this is Eve Online, and today I'm actually grinding for stats, and I wanted to show you how I'm doing that. So I need to get some... where is it? I've got a little agent here. So I want to get some standings with the armor so that I can run missions for the armor, because there's a few things going on, and I want to try and run missions for multiple factions within Eve at the same time. Normally my mission running is done with Sisters of Eve. I've also done a fair bit with Caldari back in the day. That's over a decade ago, but I've still got standings with them. But now what I wanted to do is to get some for Minotaur, which is actually what my base character is, and for armor at the same time. And this is linking into a future video where I'm going through a sort of unified method of running missions to make it as sort of fast as possible. Not exactly blitzing, but keeping it a bit more safe and things like this. But I wanted to show what I was doing just now because I think this is sort of useful in general for people. So what I wanted to do was to go through the fits first of all, because I've just done this with Thucker Tribe, and now I'm going to be doing this with the armor. So the fittings are the most important thing, because what I need to do is I've got, if I show it, we just bring up the agency. So in the agency you've got your missions. Obviously I'm doing security. If you're early on in the game, mining missions are particularly good for grinding stats, because you can sort of do it semi-AFK. So you can go in, find a mining agent, and you'll be asked to mine certain amounts of specific things. Now they are materials that you would be mining in a place that they sort of send you to, and it's not the same as the normal stuff you can mine at belts, but it definitely worth a look if you're doing this sort of semi-AFK and you want to build up standings with a particular thing. Now in general what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, is to build stats both with the corporation. So for me at the moment it is these guys. So we have the Carthium conglomerate. That's who I'm going to be running missions for, because that's what I want the LP for. So what you would actually do is you go into mission agents, you go into security agents, and then you have a look, and don't change the level, just have a look at them all, because it will show you red here if you can't take one. So as you can see here, because of my skills, and this will be different for you because I'm a sort of a higher skilled character, but because of my skills I can get access to level 2 agents, even though if we actually look at this particular agent and then the standings, you'll see that I have 0 standings to the Armor Empire, which is actually weird because they were lower than that before. But at 0, which is what you'll start at generally as you become a new capsuleer, you then need to sort of grind up. So immediately with my skills, it brings it up to 2. There are several skills that you can use if you go into your actual skill catalogue, and then we go to social. You have a few different things here. So diplomacy for going getting standings or standing increases with agents that don't like you at the moment. Then you have sort of negotiating, which gives you more pay per skill level for the things. Then you've got security connections and social and connections in general. These are all things that help when you're actually building, getting LP and getting standings towards the agent. So it's well worth having a look at these and training some in. But as a new player, you just want to sort of get your standings up, maybe start your skills, but I imagine you would be sort of looking at what you actually want to be doing first, as opposed to what you want to be training. So with that said, what I have here, this is the ship that I'm going to be using now. I know it's 264 million, that's an expensive version. I'll show you the cheaper one first. So if we go to this same one, so this one here is what I've called the Marathon, and it is mainly Tech 1 with the exception of the damage control, because if you know this, Tech 2 damage control doesn't require more than hull upgrades level 4. So with the exception of that, everything else is Tech 1, and it does actually have an extra energy resistance over the top of just the single one that I normally run for this. And then again we have Tech 2 drones. So for the people that don't know this is a Prophecy, which is the armor battle cruiser. The reason I'm using this particular one at the moment is because I'm fighting in armor space, and because of the bonuses that this gets in general. It gets bonuses to the drones, but if you put in enough sort of the ballistic control systems, you can also get the damage up. And I'm using the prototype Air Blast. Now, the reason for the missiles and drones is because you can target multiple things at the one time. The drones will automatically seek their next target for what's attacking you, but the missiles will give you that little bit extra punch. Now, normally you would put heavy missiles on a battle cruiser or a cruiser, but when you're grinding, especially level 2 and level 3, you're going to be getting a lot of frigate enemies, so you want the smaller the smaller explosion radius that comes with the light missiles. But you also want distance, because a lot of these missions will spawn at distances sort of over 30 kilometers, and you're trying to maximize runtime for this. This is also why in the rigs I'm actually using ionic field projectors to speed up my targeting time, because I want to target nice and fast. I want to get everything wiped out and then get back to base to grab the next mission, because I'm just doing this straight through, sort of getting as much standing as possible. I don't really care about looting wrecks or things like this. This is something you could do, but for me it's just all about the standings, and that's what I want to get there. Now, this base one is 91 million. On top of that particular one, if you are starting out, just to sort of show this if you don't know this, if you go into skill plans, go into personal plan and then hit create plan, it will bring up this window. And then what you can do is, if we just drag this fitting straight over there, you will get a skill plan for it immediately. Now, I don't have any implants in, so this is a raw time for me. It might vary depending on your actual levels of different stats in Eve, but it's basically 23 to 25 days training, so about a month's training to get everything up and done. But you might already have a lot of this, because it's basic gunnery, hull upgrades, energy grid upgrades. If you go through the tutorial, you get a lot of this stuff quickly. And disregard, yes. So for me, the one that I'm actually using is a little bit more upgraded, so I'm using Tech 2 rigs instead of Tech 1. I'm using Centum C-type armor repper. The only reason I'm using this is because I was going to use the True Sancha armor repper, but when I was in Jita, this one's better and it was the same price, so I grabbed a bigger one just because it was shiny. And you can see just Tech 2, Tech 1 there, Tech 2 stuff all the way through. So the only shiny thing on this is the Centum. And the reason that I picked that one up is because normally I have implants when I'm doing this. As an example, because you might see that I've recently lost them. The implants that I normally run in this, easy to get it off the kill mail, is Ascaplan low grades. So as you can see here, this is 600 million worth of implants, but I use this through all of my armor repping ships. Armor repping ships and missions. So this is my mission run thing. So you can see here that we have repair, an extra capacitor one because there wasn't anything else to put in that, and then tracking. So that's the sort of name of the game for this particular implant, is you want tracking and armor repair, which is nice and simple, gives you a good sort of a good balance for this. And the method that I'll be showing in the next video is all to do with armor repping when you're running missions. So with all that said, I'm going to show one more thing in case you want to go a different way. The other fitting that I actually have is a cruiser for this same thing. So most people will know these ones. So this is actually the Vexor Navy issue. You can do the same thing with the standard Vexor. I don't think I have done it with that one. No, I haven't. I don't have any of those setups. But this one was built around about this. You can do roughly the same thing with the standard Vexor, you just don't have as much armor, so you have to pay a bit more attention. But essentially this one, you can run every level 2 mission with one repper active. You don't need to think about it. So as you can see here in the simulation, if we turn off second repper, you're entirely stable, and that is just sort of, oh my god, I've got myself in trouble, I haven't been paying attention. We have the drone link augmenter, so that you can throw the drones out further, but you don't really want to be throwing them at groups at a distance, because some of the groups might target onto things. As you see here, we have a good sort of split. I do have some heavy drones in there, that's just what I was using, but I wouldn't recommend them in general for 2s or 3s because you're never hitting anything that sort of size. You would want a mix of drones, so you would want some hammerheads, are good sort of hit all, because thermal is usually a good resistance to hit, but then sort of aim for what you are fighting. So for instance, the reason I've got warriors is because this was the one I was using for the Thucker tribe, so explosive versus something that's sensitive to explosive is good in general. The hammerheads in general for anything else, and then infiltrators because I kept getting a lot of blood raiders in the place that I was. So that's the reason for those, and sort of pick your damage types accordingly. It is good in general to train into every Tech 2 drone. That's just a good practice, but you don't need it to start off. So this is something you can do. As you can see, this particular setup is a bit more expensive. I can't think why at the moment. That's why. These are why as well, because I've got the upgraded ones here. So if we just swap those back down, it can't be a large, it has to be one of these. So just going for standard stasis webs. Back down at 100 million. One more thing to talk down. Get the YZ8. There you go. So this is 90 odd million at the same time. And the other thing on it is that I'm just using Tech 1 ammo. I'm not using Tech 2 because I don't need it. You'll be able to chew through the stuff in general with it, and the blasters are essentially backup to the drones. Your main power is in the drones. So that's what's going on here. As you can see, this one kicks out a little bit more. With the antimatter actually loaded, if it'll load, we get sort of 500 DPS, so it's more powerful than the one I'm currently using. But in general, this one has a bit more projection ability because although it's lower damage, it's also hitting at the exact right size, and it can hit a hell of a lot further. Obviously blasters versus ranged missiles is a lot further, so that's why this one I think is a better idea in general. So with that being said, let's jump across to our actual mission running place. So I need to find it quickly because this is the hub that I'm set up in for the level 4. And as you can sort of see here, I've got a few other things going on, which will be the next video. So let's go. Hello again, we are now here. So I've jumped across to the other place with the level 2 agent, and as you can see, I've just grabbed the level 2. But I want to go through the standing increases before that. So if we have a look in here, if you have a look at Thucker Tribe, this is one I've been doing before. So when you do missions for a particular agent, you will get an increase in effective standing from them. But for the actual corporation, you're not going to really change much in general. Let me have a look at this. See, standing. So I still have a negative sort of standing towards them. I have a little bit of an increase because of the missions I've been running, but it's the base one. So the actual base entity, Thucker Tribe, Amar, Minmatar, etc. That's what you're trying to get the standing increase in. To do that, you need to run the missions, and every 16 missions you will get a storyline mission, and completing the storyline is where you will get your increase in standings. Now sometimes that storyline mission will be against another faction, so you have to be careful of it when if you're doing like I'm doing and you're trying to get multiple standings at the one time. You have to be careful if you're taking missions against that opposite faction, because it could mess with other ones. In general, you're allowed to decline those, but when it's a storyline mission, you can't really decline them, because that's what you're sort of going for. If you decline it, you need another 16 missions to get there. So it's just a case of balancing them out and keeping an eye on it. But in general, if you're just running for one faction, this is what we're doing. We're running 16 missions, getting a storyline, completing the storyline, back to the next 16. And usually it will take about 2 to 3. So 0 standings, I think, be able to get to 3, level 3 in a day of running, which is probably about 6 hours ish if I'm absolutely blasting it. The problem with my timing, and the reason I didn't make a video on the last time I was doing it, is because I was running absolutely everything else. So if anomalies and things cropped up in the same system, I was doing that. It did take me about 3 days to complete it, but I ran about 4 times as many anomalies as I did actually missions. So right now it is 12:24 in Finland, and I'm going to run this for a little while. I'm going to keep track of my time, and I might have to break and get the kids and all of that jazz and start up later in the evening again, but I'm going to tell you exactly how long it took me from 0 standings with the armor to get from +2 effective standing all the way up to running level 4s. Remember, I have skills, which is why I've gone up to level 2 effective standing of 2 when I have 0 reputation. But let's continue with these. So right, we're at a bit of a midpoint here. I have just had my first storyline mission for the armor, which is about 3.5 hours in it took me to get it. And this particular one, there's been a couple here that have actually caused me standing losses to Galante. When running for the armor, you get a phenomenal amount of anti-Galante missions. So far it's been about 1 in 3, and I've turned most of them down, which has meant that my agent standing sort of comes down a bit, but because of my skills it goes up more than it comes down for the missions that I'm getting offered. But I had at 1.4 of them back to back that were all against the Galante, and I weren't taking them. But the storyline mission was against the Galante, there was no way to refuse that, and there was one a bit before that I figured I could take the hit. So my Galante standings, as you can see here, have actually come down. But at the same time, my armor standings, as you can see, this is all of my old stuff from back doing faction warfare, because I was running with Minmatar, and then it was pretty much as low as you can get, I think. But this faction mission has bumped me back up. So the Minmatar, the armor standing was -1.37, and it's sort of come back up to -0.97, which puts me +3. This is significant because it means that with my extra skills I've actually come up to the point where I can do level 3 missions. So it is now time to pack up everything and shift over to a system with the level 3 missions and run some of them, because I'll get a higher standing increase off of the storyline mission from them than I will for the level 2 missions. So this will be a little bit faster. It'll also give me more standings towards the agent, which will translate into level 4 agents. So that's where I'm going next, is just to move over to the next system. Right, we're back at carry on missions there. The next day. In total I've been going for about 10 hours, I think, between yesterday and today, sort of mission running between level 2s and level 3s. The level 2s you saw afterwards when I did the storyline mission, and now we've got another storyline mission from the level 3s. And I'm just going to bring this up as I'm heading towards the station. As you can see here, it is just a case of purchasing ombre or mining ombre, depending on what. I've already looked at the value of it, which is 4,900,000 so far. Let me just check. I have made 54 million off of the missions and just bounties and rewards for the missions. So you're making a bit of money. This fitting was more expensive, but the one that I sort of recommended first time round was around about 100 million, so you're sort of gaining about half of that back to do the missions. But this fitting will also run some of the level 4s if you choose to, so you will be able to do it that way. That being said, one of the things I've noticed with the armor missions specifically is a lot of them have a lot more distance in them between where you warp into and where the actual enemies are. So it's good to have that bit of distance, and I kind of built for that, but I actually didn't build well enough because the range of the missiles on this is about 39 kilometers, whereas a lot of the enemies were spawning in at sort of 60. So it's something to be advised for, and I would also sort of think that it might be an idea to go for something a little bit faster than this, although I would still say having that split attack between the drones and the missiles, or if you choose something else, as long as you've got sort of multiple attacks, it works a little bit better in general. Occasionally you will come across a spawn where they're instantly going after your drones, so it's always good to have that sort of backup DPS in general. But it's not been too much of a problem. I've been doing this sort of semi-AFK, watching things at the same time and then just listening for the alarms. The level 2 missions with this particular ship build were not a problem at all. I didn't get through the shield on the majority of them, although it was a bit slower because we're running a battle cruiser, so that's a little bit of judgment for yourselves as to what's going on, what you're looking at doing. I would actually suggest that the Minmatar battle cruiser, I can't quite remember which one it is at the moment, let's have a look down here. So your Minmatar battle cruiser, the Cyclone would actually be a good one because you've got the sort of missile damage in general, but at the same time with this you don't have the same sort of drone capacity. There is a little bit on this one, I believe. So you do have 50 megabits you can put on one set of heavies or two sets of smalls, which would be an advantage, but the advantage between the Galante ships and this particular armor prophecy is that you can put a little bit more in, so you're more geared towards drones. The Myrmidon would also be an option, and I think in general it might be a better option because it's a little bit faster than the prophecy, just moving through space, although it might be about the same, but it does have a little bit more to the drone's micro warp ability and moving about. So that's some options for it, but this is a sort of stable fit that I think is good, and the main reason I flew it is the main reason you should be flying any ship. It's fun. I haven't flown a prophecy in some while. I used to fly Damnation when I was doing some fleet support and things like that, and I quite like the look of it. The little fat eagle is always funny. So that being said, let's accept this mission, and then because I've bought the ombre already, just as I was coming in there, we complete the mission and we get a reward. So we've spent 4.5 million and we got 9.2 million worth of a chip. And then if we actually check for the agency and go into our missions and security agents, we still need a bit more to get higher, so I still need to run a couple of missions in general to be able to bump up to this. Now I'm not entirely sure why, but it might be because of a lot of the missions that I was refusing. Sometimes it knocks me down in standings for refusing some, even though it said that it wouldn't, so I'm not quite sure on that, but I'll run a couple more missions, bring this back up so that we can get access to the level 4s, and then we shall go from there. So as I was just mentioning, I've been going through this and it's not made sense to me because obviously within the past sort of 2 weeks I've actually brought Thucker's tribe standings up, and it took a little bit of time, but my Thucker standings were actually sort of -2, so building them all the way back up took quite a bit of effort, whereas Amar was starting from 0. And the thing that I've noticed is, for instance, normally you're not supposed to get standing hits when you decline a mission that's against an opposition faction, but this has come up again. I just declined the mission right now against the Amar, and the mission that against Galanti, sorry. As you can see here, this one's a Galanti faction mission, and then the mission that came up immediately after it is Galanti as well. And declining this, you get the warning, and you do get a standing hit. So if I just bring this over, you can see the agent. We have the agent here, and we have the actual. Is that the correct agent? Nope, that's the level 4 one that I was tracking. Let's bring this one up. So I've got plus 662 to this particular agent. And on the right here, this is level 4 agent I'm going for. So that's, at the moment, is sort of 2 standings towards them, and then 4.67 towards Carthium Conglomerate. And if I decline this mission, then I get the message saying that my standings have dropped for this particular one because of declining the mission. You can see there which ones have sort of dropped it. But these are ones that normally it's not supposed to give you a standing decline if you decline missions against an enemy faction, but these just seem to be in the loop for the armor. So part of this, I know that these haven't gone down. Let me just check this. Yeah, so they have. So it's just a question of refreshing the page. So that's actually given me, I've gone from 4.67 down to 4.61. So I am getting standing drops when I'm declining these, but I can't do it any other way because I don't want to drop my standings against Galanti, because I'm trying to operate missions for every group, and the idea being that I can hop between multiple mission runners, because I'm trying to farm some particular things from several places with the mission LP. That's the whole idea to this. But the armor, it seems to be between a quarter and a third of all missions that come from them are against the Galanti faction, with occasional ones against Minmatar as well. But I'd never actually seen that before. I've not been somebody who's run stuff for the armor in general. I've not really lived in this section of Eve. So that's something I'm sort of dealing with. So back onto the grind. Right, so I just wanted to finish this one up tonight because it's been late. It's been 2 days, and honestly, although I quite enjoy playing missions, this has been a grind and a half to try and get through this. Sort of going through something that's a bit below the level I'd normally play at, and especially the armor ones, there's something quite odd about going through them because a lot of the missions are at such distance that you can't sort of jump in and immediately target. You're spending a lot of time flying through. So if you are doing armor missions, I would definitely recommend fitting a micro warp drive instead of an afterburner. But what actually happened was I just had another hit where I got more anti-Galanti missions, which obviously rejecting them would throw my stats down. So I've jumped over to another mission agent. Luckily there's another one in the same system for me that's still at level 3. Now this will throw off me getting the actual storyline missions, but because my standings have come up high enough, I think if I complete this one and open this again, there we go, we are at 5 from the mission standings, from the mission agent standings. So if I go into the agency, there we go, I've now unlocked level 4. So that's me sort of ground. In total, looking at the video timings, it's taken just over 11 hours in total actual time playing. Now that wasn't sort of active, I'm thundering through this, I was semi-active while I was doing this, and I haven't put a lot of the videos up because you can hear the stuff that I was watching in the background. But that's a sort of rough idea of it. It's taken me 12 hours to go from 0 to +5 stats, so that I've managed to get access to level 4 missions. And looking back at the ones for Thrucker Tribe, it's actually 12 hours, which was going from -2 all the way up to +5. So 12 hours seems a good time to be able to say. Now again, I'm at a higher skill level, but I'm also not sort of playing particularly hardcore, so it's not everything running constantly, targeting, killing. There's a bit of time there as I've not been paying attention and things like that. And I think if you were to add another 2 hours onto that for a lower skilled player that isn't kicking out the same sort of damage I am in these ships, And then obviously if you're using something like a micro warp drive fit and you're using a cruiser and active tanking the entire time, you're going to be able to do this a little bit faster even with lower skills. So I think that's a good sort of generalised statement on how long it should take most people to grind these stats out. For me this has been 2 days, so 6 hours each day roughly, and that's me getting up to level 5, so I can now hop back onto the main battleship in armour space and start running missions for the armour.
3:28 a.m.
Well, I guess we're going to finish this one up with a bit of a mystery. So, I needed to get an effective standing of 5 to use this agent. I got an effective standing of 5, and that's not working. Start conversation. What planet were you born on? Check your standings. Requesting a mission doesn't give you anything. And obviously if I have a look at his particular thing, it says your effective personal standing must be 5 or higher towards this agent. I do have 5 or higher. I got 5 exactly. And I had 5 last time. I went down, did another mission, came all the way back up. And still at 5 and still don't have that. So I think I might have to burn out a few more missions. But we shall see. So I'm going to leave it a couple of minutes and see if any of the standing kicks give me a bit of an advantage. So, I didn't give it 15 minutes, I literally restarted the Eve client and it gave me access to the mission as soon as I opened it back up, so less than 30 seconds since I last stopped talking. So, we have access now, and the first one up is an anothe team, so I'll just run that as I'm going. But yep, again, thank you for watching. This has been 2 days of grinding to get standings for level 4 missions. It's been a bit of a slog, but that's a fairly simplistic way of doing it. A little bit expensive, and you can obviously do this with cheaper and faster fits. And for basic characters, for newer characters, alphas and things like this, I would recommend the battle cruiser. Even though it's a bit slower going, it gives you so much sort of safety as you're learning the ropes of going through these if you're a very new character. And it's nice and simple. There's a lot of good sort of lore within the missions as well. But just pay attention to your standings to other corporations at the same time, because obviously if your corporation, if you're doing for instance armour like I am, and your Galante stats go quite low, that causes a bit of travel problems as you're moving about. You might become an enemy of an empire, so it's something to keep an eye on in general. And it's why I didn't expect as many anti-Galante missions as I got, because while you will always get one or the other, it's literally been a third as I'm looking through the videos. So thanks for watching. Bye. If you're doing faction, if you want faction standing for just one particular faction, then the other way of doing it is the epic arcs. So the epic arcs will gain you a fantastic amount of standing very quickly as you work through them. I don't even think you need to complete them, but completing them will get you the highest bump in standing. And you get several of them, I believe, and somebody can correct me in the comments for this, I'll tag this right at the top, but I believe that if you do the Sisters of Eve particularly, so that's the Bloodstained Stars here, this will actually give you faction standings for most of the Empire factions. I'm not entirely sure about that, but you have a few of these that you can do depending on the faction, which will give you an awful lot of stuff, and I am considering going through the Galante Federation one. So that's something to gain a lot of stuff, but it's not something that's open to me because of the way that I'm trying to gain these at the moment. I might run through the Sisters of Eve one fairly soon, and I'll make a point of recording it. I did start one a while back and then sort of sacked it off, but just in general that's a good way to do it if you're looking for a single standing for a particular faction. But I'm trying to get them all high, and historically I haven't, so I'm sort of correcting some stuff from over 15 years ago. So that's what's going there, and that's why I'm not using that particular method.